Hello everyone, welcome back to MalStorm Gaming. My name is Malachi Gardner, and today I'm going to be continuing my playthrough of the Pathfinder adventure card game. Enjoy!
Last episode, we just left off at the end of the first turn, and so we're just going to pick up right there, starting on the second turn. So the first thing we do is we're going to advance the hourglass. Okay, so the new hourglass has an ability saying, when this is the hour, on your check to acquire a boon, add 1d6. If you succeed, bury the boon. Okay, what that means is, when we explore, and if we find a boon, such as a weapon, a spell, some armor, or an item, anything like that, anything good for us, then we get to add an extra d6 to our roll. But if we succeed, then we have to bury the boon. When you bury something, you take that card and put it under your character card. And what that does is that now that card is out of this current game. At the end of the game, when you're rebuilding your character's deck, then you get to acquire all these cards again, but we can't use it for this game. So normally, when you acquire a boon, it goes right into our hand, but for this one, we won't be able to get it for the rest of the game. So now we go through and activate any start turn abilities. So first, let's see. Well, our location has one. We can examine the top card of a distant location. So let's see what this is again. And it's the Dire Boar. Now, last time we did look at this, and we saw it was the Dire Boar. But this is just kind of to remind us what this is. So we have a Dire Boar here. And so we could go fight this if we wanted to, because now we've done all these start turn abilities, and so now we can move. So we know exactly what's going to happen in the ruins. So we could go over there and fight that boar. Or we could explore the tower, but we have no idea what we're going to find. So, let's see, do we have some aggressive things? Let's see. Okay, we have a sling. This sling, for your combat check, reveal to use dexterity or ranged. And then one extra d4. So our dexterity is a d8. We have no additional ranged skill. So it would be a d8 and a d4, which would be pretty good. We also can, on any combat check, freely recharge to add 1d4. You may use this power even if you have previously revealed this card on the check. Okay, that could be good. So we could try doing that. See, nothing else that would help us fighting. Okay. So we could try to take down that boar, or we could just do the tower and see what we get. Now, one thing with the boar to make it even more difficult and a little bit scary is that the rune has the ability here that says, at this location, when a monster is undefeated, shuffle a new monster into the location. So normally, when you defeat a monster, it just shuffles back into the deck, so you fight it later. But this would add an additional monster, so we lose, then there'll be another monster. And if we take another look at this Dire Boar, it has 2 combat checks. One of them is 10, and then one of them is 11. So we have to go through both of those to defeat it. I don't know, I could try it, or I could just continue exploring the tower. Alright, I think I'm actually going to take a risk and go over and fight this boar. So let's see if we can do it. Alright. So, it has some powers. Let's read those. It says, when you would reveal a melee weapon on the check to defeat, recharge it instead. If defeated, but either check to defeat was not exceeded by at least 4, suffer 1d4 combat damage. Alright. So, that's what we're going to need to do. And I think that I'm just going to reveal this sling. So, we get our dexterity, which is 1d8. And then we get 1d4. Now, we could recharge it to add an additional 1d4, but I'm not going to do that because we are going to need to make a check immediately after this check, so I don't think it makes sense to do that just now. So let's go ahead and roll these dice. There's no other cards that I can play on a combat check. Alright, so let's see. Okay. So we have a 6 and a 4. So that is 10, and 10 is what we were trying to go for. So we actually managed to do that. One thing, real quick, before rolling again, we did not exceed it by 4, and I wasn't expecting to exceed it by 4, so we are going to take 1d4 combat damage at the end of it. But I'm not too worried about that because we have a healing spell in our hand. So now, I get to roll again with those dice, but I can also recharge this card to add an additional 1d4, just to make sure we get it. But then it's not my hand. Alright, I think I'm going to try it. And then I'm going to add an additional d4, so 2d4 and 1d8. Alright, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Even with that extra die, still did not do it, unfortunately. So the difference is 3, which means that we need to be dealt 3 damage. So we have to discard 3 cards from our hand, but luckily we have these Bracers of Protection, which says that when you suffer combat damage, freely reveal to reduce it by 1. You may notice that some powers say to freely reveal it. Why is that a big deal? Well, that's because for each check that you do, the party collectively, all the players, can only reveal 1 card of each type per check. No matter how many players you have, only 1 person can play a blessed card, only 1 person can play a weapon, only 1 person can play an item for that check, unless it says like this, to freely reveal it, and then if it's freely revealed, it does not count towards that limit, which is pretty nice. So we can reduce damage by 1. We also have an ability here that says when you suffer any damage, charge to reduce it by 1. I think I'm going to do that top one here, so we can, when you suffer combat damage, freely reveal to reduce it by 1. So this is now going down to 2 damage dealt to us. Then I think I'm going to discard the Soothing Ward. Then I think I'll discard the Troubadour. Alright, then that is going to be all the cards I have to discard. Discarded 2 cards after reducing the damage by 1. Then we have to shuffle this into the ruins, but since we lost, we have to take another monster randomly and shuffle that in as well. So this is bad news. So let's go ahead and shuffle this up. All shuffled up, and now we've done our exploration, and so we can play cards if we wanted to. I think I'm actually going to play this Cure card right here, because this is a healing spell, and we just were dealt a decent amount of damage. So, this says to banish to heal a local character 1d4 plus 1 cards, and it has a during recovery power. So I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to roll a d4, which is 4, which is nice. Then we get 1 extra, so 5, and that is how many cards we get to heal. Now, we only have 3 cards in here, so I'm actually going to be able to take all of these cards and heal them, which means that I shuffle them into my deck. Alright, so now it's all shuffled up. Now, you may remember that last time we had recharged a spell that we put at the bottom of the deck. Now it's shuffled up, so now we can actually draw that faster, which is nice. So then, this has a during recovery power, so we're just going to set this aside. Is there anything else I actually want to do? I don't think so. I think I am actually just going to go to the recovery phase. So if proficient, which this is a divine card, and I'm proficient in divine, then we can discard it instead. It also says that we can succeed a divine 8 check to recharge it instead of discarding it. So our recharge, our divine is listed under charisma, which is D10, and then we have +1 to it. So that is going to be pretty good, you know, D10 plus 1. And then we also have an ability that says that on a local non-combat check, you may recharge a card to add 1d4. So, I think I'm not too attached to the Spyglass, so I think I'm going to take this and recharge it to add 1 extra d4, just to make sure that we get it. Alright, so that is going to be 9, 10, 11, 12. So we do get to recharge this. It's at the bottom of the deck. And now we have no cards in our discard pile, and we have 1 card in our hand. So I'm going to draw 5 cards to go up to my hand size. And then the next hour goes, and it has no special effects. So then we can move, and I think I am going to move back to the tower. Real quick, I'm going to check my cards. So we have the Troubadour again, the Sling again, we have a Blessing, another Blessing, Soothing Ward, which I also discarded for damage, and then the Brace of Protection, which I did not discard last turn. So, decent hand. We have a weapon, which is good. We always want to at least have a weapon or a aggressive spell. Now, let's not forget that during this scenario, we have an extra ability that would allow us to evade a bane that we encounter if we succeed a Knowledge or Perception 5 check. So, that could be pretty good, and when we evade it, we just shuffle it back into the deck. We didn't win, we didn't lose, we just ran away. So if we were caught without any sort of weapon, then we could do that. Alright, so now let's go ahead and explore. Alright, Clairvoyance. Now this is a spell. It has a bunch of different stats we could use. We could use Intelligence, Wisdom, Arcane, or Divine. With whichever one we choose, we need to get a 9. So, let's see. Alright, so if we get this card, what does it do? It says to banish to examine the top 3 cards of any location, and then return them in any order. If proficient during recovery, we can discard this card instead, and then we can succeed a Arcane or Divine check of 11 to recharge it instead. So, alright, that's pretty good. Now one thing, this is a level 3 spell, which means that we can find it, and we can use it, but at the end of the game, when we are rebuilding our deck, we do not get to keep this spell. So it's not going to be like that. It's not that important to me to get it. So I think I'm just going to do a D10 plus 1 for our Arcane. I'm trying to get a 9. Alright. It's a 1. So, oh well. So this is going to go back into the box. And then, unless we play a card, that is it. Do we want to play anything? We could discard this to explore. Oh, I should have read this. On a local check, discard to Bless. If the hour's level is 0, you may recharge instead. Now, the hour's level is 0, so I should have done that, because getting that card, and even just having it for this game, would be pretty good, and it's just a recharge, so it's not really like any loss to me, so, oh well, I should have done that. I can also discard this guy to explore, but I don't think I'm going to. I have plenty of time left. Let's go on to the next round. Alright, so when this is the hour, on your check against an animal or elemental card, add 1d4. Okay? Then, I mean, it's the beginning of our turn, so we could look at the top card of the ruin, and it is a ghoul. So it has a combat of 11, and then it has 2 of those symbols there, which means that you see what the adventure level is, which for this one, it is 1, and usually the campaign is split up into 3 different adventure levels. I think there are like 3 or 4 scenarios inside each adventure level, and so then the campaign gets a little bit harder as you progress. So for now, this is 11 plus 2, but later it would be 11 plus 4, and so on. Then we have some powers. It's immune to mental and poison, so we can't use any cards with those traits. And then, if undefeated, either banish an ally or suffer the Scourge Dazed. So let's see what Dazed does. Alright, so Dazed says, you may not examine locations. If you explore this turn, you may not explore again. If you didn't suffer this Scourge on this turn, at the end of your turn, shuffle your hand into your deck, remove this Scourge. So that's not like a terrible thing. The other Scourge that we almost faced was the Frightened Scourge, and that one's really bad. It does damage to us passively, but this one doesn't seem like that bad. It just kind of more seems annoying. But we still don't really want to get it. So I didn't have that good of luck with my sling last time, so I think I might wait to go there before, until I have maybe a better thing, although I do have a blessing I could use. I think I'm just going to stay at the tower and explore here. And it is a Diabolical Imp, which, if we check the scenario book, is one of our closing henchmen, and he has a special name, Harzogo Pass. Quite a name. And it's quite a monster. So he has an interesting thing here. He has a check to defeat, combat 10 or arcane or divine 7. So we could choose. We could fight him, or we could just cast a spell at him or something like that. And it is a monster, and it is immune to fire and poison. Before acting, succeed at a wisdom or perception 4 check, or this monster is undefeated. Oh wow, that's bad. If undefeated, suffer the Scourge poisoned. Okay, that's worse. So, let's see what happens here with poisoned. Alright, so when we are poisoned, after you reset, recharge a random card. When you would heal any number of cards, you may remove this Scourge instead. So, basically how that works is at the end of each turn, we'd shuffle up our hand, and a random card gets recharged. Which could be bad if we, I don't know, lost our sling or something like that. So the poison weakens you, which is bad. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this check here, so wisdom or perception 4. So which one of those is higher? I don't have anything for perception, but my wisdom is a d6, which is not terrible. So d6 for 4, not bad. There's a decent chance of me doing that, but can I improve it? Well, okay, I could bless, but then I also have a power. That power that I've been using a decent amount, so I can recharge a card to add 1d4. And it is a non-combat check, so I can do that. So I think I'm going to discard this Troubadour, or sorry, recharge it, and then add 1d4 to get a 4. Alright, so I'm glad I did that because my d6 got a 1, but my d4 got a 4, so that d4 helped me out a lot. So now I can actually fight this guy, and so I'm going to do my arcane check, which is going to be charisma, so I have 1d10 in there already, plus 1, so I'm trying to roll a 6 on this. Alright, so that's not a terrible chance of winning, but I don't trust it. So, I am going to... Okay, I could discard this card to add another d10. I could also recharge one of these cards to add a d4. Or I could do both. I think I'm just going to discard 1 to add a d10, and that's 2d10 to get a 6, but when you add in my plus 1 bonus to arcane. Alright, so I think I'm going to... do we want to be safe? Alright, I think I'm just going to take these 2 dice. A pretty good chance of doing it, so let's see. Alright, so that's 10, 11, 12, plus 1. So, yeah, that's pretty good. 13. We got our 7 there. And so now he is defeated. So we're going to set him aside out of the game. And then, since it is a closing henchman, we get to immediately use this ability here to try to close it. Now, normally, you'd have to go through the entire deck here, and then you could try to close it. But we got to the henchman, and the scenario book tells us very specifically that it is a closing henchman, and so we can succeed at a wisdom or perception 4 plus 1 check, so 5, to close it. Alright, so I think that I will try to do that. So my wisdom, again, is a d6, and 6 for a 5, not good, so I'm going to discard this blessing here to add another d6. Now we have 2 d6 to get a 5. This is decent. Then I'm going to recharge this card here to add another d4. Now that is risky because we've been getting a lot of cards that will possibly give us scourges, but I think I really want to be able to close this. Alright, so I've got a bunch of dice here, trying to get a 5. Alright, so again, I am glad that I got my d4 because my d4 has not been letting me down. Got a 4. And then we have another 4 here. So alone, the d6s would not have done it, but with the d4, I was able to do it. So, when closed, it has an ability saying, you may examine the top card of a distant location. So, it's going to be the ruin here, and it is still the ghoul. I wonder why. Alright, so now this tower is going to be discarded, so it's removed from the game, and then all of these cards are also removed from the game. Now, one thing, if there were a villain inside the game, as we're going through these cards here and putting them back in the box, if there was a villain, then we actually would not be able to close the location, and instead the villain would stay as the only card left in that location. All the other cards would be discarded, but the villain would actually have to stay because we can't get rid of the villain that easily. We actually need to fight him. But there are no villains inside this scenario right here. Now, since our location is closed, we must move to another location. Now, there's only one to choose from, so to the ruins it is. So now we just have to do this, and I think there's like 11 cards in here because they start with 10 and then we added 1. So we could, in theory, end it in 11 turns. Or less. We got through that location in only 4 turns, so, it's possible to do that. So let's see. Alright, there's nothing I want to discard to do anything else with, so I'm just going to draw up to 6 cards. I could discard a card to add another one, but I like having the sling, and then I like having some protection, so I'm going to go up to 6. Alright, 6 cards. Then, we go to the next round. Alright. On your check against an outsider card, add 1d4. Well, that could have been nice because this guy was an outsider. So, if we had drawn that last turn, we would have gotten an additional d4, which could have been nice. So, I'm just going to get right into exploring because there's nothing I would like to play. And it is the ghoul. So, are you prepared to fight this? Hopefully. So, we're trying to get a 13. And so this guide here gives me a 1d6 to closing or guarding, which could have helped me last turn. This allows me to discard to bless, or I can discard to examine the top card of your location, then exploring, which would be kind of cool. The cat gives me a bonus against spells. Okay, so on your local check against a spell, recharge to add 1d4, discard to explore. This exploration. On checks that invoke the magic trait, add 1d4. Then we have the Token of Remembrance. On your check to recharge a spell, recharge to add 1d8. Bury to reload a spell from your discards. Okay. So, alright, final thing we want to do is, this is not an outsider, so just making sure that I wouldn't get that bonus. It would have been nice if I had gotten it, but oh well. So, let's do the sling, because we have no aggressive spell, so let's just take the sling out. We get 1d8 and 1d4. And that to get a 13, not terrible. I have several different options. I could recharge this card to add a 1d4. I could discard this card to add 1d8, because when you bless a check, you add a die that already exists, so I could add a d4 or a d8, and of course the d8 would be better. So I could do that. I think that I am just going to play it safe and discard this prayer, and then I'll add a d8, and hopefully this works. Alright, so we got a 4, and a 1. Alright, so we have a difference of 4 right there. That's not very good. So we're going to have to discard 4 cards. Now, first, I'm going to be able to reveal this to reduce it by 1, so we have 3 cards left. Then, I have to discard a bunch of cards. I think I want to discard these 3 cards here. Basically all the cards I just drew, because I do like have a sling and some sort of protection. And, yeah, the sling is not doing the best for me, but oh well. Now, this card's going to be going back, as well as another monster, because of the Ruin's special ability. So now, there's one more card in there. Alright, so now I'm going to draw up to my hand size. And good. We have Lightning Touch and Fiery Glare, which are both pretty good attack spells, and hopefully they'll be better than my Slingshots. Now, one thing to note, I have 3 cards left, so if I get dealt 3 more damage, I die. So we probably should be taking advantage of the special ability for the scenario. So next up, the card has no ability, so it's going to be discarded. And then, is there anything I want to play? I think I'm just going to get right in there. So, it is Poison Gas, and that picture is very dark. You can't really see what's going on there. It is a barrier, and it has a craft or disable check of 6 plus 1, so 7. If undefeated, mark your location with the Scourge Poisoned. Then each local character must succeed at a Constitution or Fortitude 8 plus 1, so 9. Check or suffer 1d4 poison damage. Then banish this barrier. So this could be bad. So craft, let's see, I don't have any craft or disable. Which means that, so if you don't have a skill that's listed, you gain 1d4, which is not good, so we have a d4, and so it's impossible for me to do, which is great. So I'm going to recharge a card. I'm going to recharge my Spyglass, and hope for the best. So now I have 1 extra d8, or sorry, d4. d8 would be nice, but I'll roll these 2 d4s, and hopefully I don't die. And, okay, so I have 3. So, I do not succeed, and my location is marked with the Scourge Poisoned. Alright, so, after you reset, recharge a card, random card, so that's not good, and then when you heal any number of cards, you remove this Scourge instead. Then, we have a check to do. So we succeed a Constitution or Fortitude 9 check or suffer 1d4 damage. Now, my Constitution is 8 and I have no Fortitude, so I have to get a 9 with that 8. So I did die. So I'm going to recharge this archer here to add 1 additional d4, and then I'll see what I get. All right. Oh my goodness, I'm rolling terribly now. So that's a 2. That is not what I wanted. So now I roll a d4 to see how much damage I get dealt. All right, that's 2. So 2 damage. That's not good. So, let's see. Okay, I'm going to recharge this to reduce the damage by double by 1. So, right here, it says when we suffer combat damage, freely reveal to reduce it by 1. Now, this is poison damage, so I can't use that. I have to recharge it. Okay, so that's better than nothing. So now I have 1 card I need to discard. And I think I will discard this. Oh, man. So I could discard the sling, but the sling is a consistent weapon. Maybe it's not the best weapon, but I can keep it in my hand because I just need to reveal it. With these spells, I need to discard them with the possibility of recharging them, but it's a little bit more risky because you need to recharge them, but they're way more powerful. So I'm not entirely sure which one to do. I think I'll discard the sling, and worst comes to worst, I can use my special ability here, which would let me discard a card from my hand to recharge a card from my discard pile to get the sling back, if I really wanted it back. But now this poison gas is banished, so it is gone. And we draw up to 6 cards, so that's going to be 4 cards, and we got our healing spell, which is really good because I desperately need healing. I have 2 cards left in my deck, and then I need to recharge a random card. So, alright, Fiery Glare. So, that's gone, and then I still have my poison spell. My healing spell, not my poison spell, Cure. I still have Cure, and I'm hopefully going to be able to use that on my next turn. But that is where I'm going to end this session. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you all will join me next time when I will hopefully complete the game. I don't know, I could possibly die. I think I'll have to be careful and make some smarter decisions, maybe. I don't know, I should have evaded that poison gas, probably. Oh well, I'll maybe need to evade things more, and hopefully I'll be able to kill the monsters that come at me. But, anyway, I hope you all have a great day, and happy gaming!